And we're live. Welcome to Making Awesome Season 2, Episode 30 with my good friend Alex from Lunchpool. Alex, I want to get the Backstreet Boys from you. The who you are, the where you from, the what you did, and as long as you love me.
I've never heard it like that. I like it. So let's see who I am. I'm Alex Abell, founder, CEO, and proclaimed lunch break enforcer of Lunchpool. I'm a startup founder. Previously in corporate America, I've been running Lunchpool for going on 4 years now, three plus years, um, helping people get together. So we were originally building an app for in-person connecting in the office, and we have gotten into virtual events, playing in the metaverse. So that's who I am. I love technology and bringing people together. I'm originally from Georgia, South Georgia, Thomasville to be exact, and then spent a big chunk of my time in Tampa, Florida, and now I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I love sweet tea, and I love nice people. Nice, I say nice.
You got some
And
of that
then
that southern Georgia drawl on you. You know, they
oh,
they
it breaks out sometimes.
they say here in Florida you have to go north to go south, and I think that is absolutely accurate, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think that Jacksonville is South Georgia, but then Florida in general is not the South. It's like
No,
if
it's
you go too far, and it's just like no, you're back in New York.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I've answered all your questions. As long as you love me, of course, Grant, I
you
love
know. And we met, I think, initially through Tampa Bay Startup Week, where I was kind of thrust into doing a lot of random stuff with JR
you. Okay,
because
yeah,
I was adamant on helping him make a really awesome event. And we did the trophies that year. I think it was 2019, maybe
yeah.
2020, I think. I don't know. But that was certainly fun times. And of course, Lunchpool has changed quite a bit in the past couple of years, right? Your idea of getting people to get together for lunch, maybe the past 2 years has not uh, worked out so much of getting people together in person. So how have you guys kind of navigated the troubling times that we've had here in the past couple of years?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I started Lunchpool because I had worked in a number of corporate roles, and I had a lot of success. I was able to move up the ranks to, from regular entry level position to six figure career, professional person within a matter of like 4 or 5 years. And I attributed a lot of my success to lunch. I would just be social. I would meet people, say, "Hey, do you want to go grab lunch?" And I really quickly realized that connections are powerful. Everybody says your network is your net worth. Um, and it's true. I mean, social capital, I've come to research because I love this stuff. Social capital is capital. Like it's powerful as financial capital. It's the who you know juice. And so I started Lunchpool saying you can be successful too. You can get to know the people in your company, open up new connection pathways, do better work, enjoy your life more. But like you said, COVID happened, and not really a great time to be in the in-person connecting business.
No, yeah, a lot, and a lot of small businesses suffered heavily, and we've seen, particularly unfortunately, small mom and pop shops that have faltered, whereas the large corporations are getting all of the money to keep their doors open, where the small shops obviously weren't
Yeah.
getting jack squat. So you had to quickly say, "Shit." The world has changed, and if we don't change with it, we are physically not going to survive. What was that like when you realized in-person lunch is not going to happen for a while?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, but so at that point, we had been working on Lunchpool for a year. So I quit my job. We moved up to Knoxville, Tennessee. My wife is a professor here at the University of Tennessee. And so we kind of had a spouse agreement that I could, I'm quitting my corporate job. I'm starting something. Like you can have a little while. I helped her get through her PhD program. It was a 5-year program. So she's like, not forever, but I would like you to make money at some point. But we were going on a year with no revenue. But we had done a virtual event because one of the clients that we were pitching, one of our early pilots for the app that we were building, was USAA, and like half or more than half of their workforce wasn't in Florida; they're in San Antonio where they're based.
Okay.
And so we got to exploring, saying, how can we bring Zoom into this? How can we bring some kind of virtual hybrid lunch breaking action? And so that's when I found a platform. I was scouring Product Hunt. I love new technology. So Product Hunt is a listing of all the software out there. I know you probably know this, but if anybody out there doesn't know, it's a fantastic way to find up and coming cool tech. And I found an app called Remo. Back then, they were primarily what do you call it? Like in a virtual office. So there's a few solutions back then. They were playing around with conferencing, and I
Right.
was like, this is what I need. And so we did an event called Break Tampa Bay, and this was before the pandemic. So I'm not saying that we invented virtual networking, but I think we did do the first ever virtual lunch at least. And so that was actually our first taste of revenue because we had some pilots going. During that event, we got sponsorships. We
Hmm.
made a few $1,000s, and then, like you said, when everything started to shut down, um, I thought immediately about nonprofits because I knew nonprofits at that time of the year did their big fundraisers and things. And so I just put it out there. I reached out to some connections I had made via lunch in Knoxville. And one of my good friends now, mentor, friend, everything, Tom Ballard up here in East Tennessee, he writes a blog that's really widely distributed in the innovation community. And
Okay.
he interviewed me, put an article out there. Lunchpool, uh, no longer encouraging people to end the desktop dining epidemic, which was before an actual epidemic. That was our thing. But he's like now sees a chance to help those in need. And so we did a virtual event for a children's museum, not knowing how it was going to go, but it went really well. And we've done over 600 events since then. So it just kind of blew up in a good way.
Now, how did that change your pitch, right? Because the pitch here went from we connect you in person to the right people that you want to have lunch with to
Yes.
we're gonna put you into some random software that at the time nobody had heard of,
No.
and we're going to let you figure it out. How did that kind of adjust everything for you?
Yeah. So I mean, the whole time I'm pretty big on metaphor and analogy. And so I always told people we were like that person in the lunchroom of life, right? That sees you coming in, you're a new person at the school, and we're like, oh, you need to meet so and so, and you need to watch out for these people. They're cool, but they smoke cigarettes, and you don't want to, get too into the bad crowd. But these people you need to know to party. These people kind of nerds, but they're probably going to be successful in life later. We're just uh, as a company, Lunchpool is the connector. It lets you know who you need to know, who you ought to know. And
Right.
so it wasn't that big of a shift because first we went hard after like get away from your desk. Like lunch is a beautiful thing. You're missing all this opportunity when you're doom scrolling social media at your desk. But then, everybody's at their desk anyway. And so even before the pandemic, we were like, okay, we realized it's hard to get people to change a big habit like, social anxiety. Um, and so it wasn't that big of a transition to say, hey, we'll meet you where you're at. Now you can log in, you can have lunch with someone, and just still have a great experience. So to your point, it was new software. People around the world were still trying to figure out Zoom, and we're using something that is a tiptoe into the metaverse. And you have a digital room, you have tables that you can move around from. So kind of like Zoom breakouts, but free range. And that became our pitch, right? So it was no longer, hey, we have this app, we can connect your people together in your organization.
Right.
We shifted our focus from corporate, to at the beginning at least, nonprofit and associations because they needed it the most. to hold their members together and help their donors have a platform to donate money. And so it was just really understanding the markets that we could serve and tailoring our messaging and positioning towards them.
So a lot of business, mine included, when everything's shut down, we're like, so what the hell do we do? Do you believe that this new normal and whatever that ends up being has actually benefited Lunchpool overall? Because it seems like instead of saying, oh crap, what do we do? You immediately had an idea and said, this is difficult, but I've got an idea. Let's see what we can do. It felt like there maybe wasn't an instance of shit. It was just more of, okay, universe, you want to take a ride? Let's hop on the bull. Let's go.
Yeah, no, really, we did have an oh shit moment, but it was like, shit, we were getting 100 leads a week, and it was just me and my partner Pooja back then. And like, we had we were using Excel for our CRM. I couldn't check my email fast enough, and like, legitimately lost 30 pounds between March and May of 2020 because I wasn't eating lunch. I was just like working. So, but as far as like, man, how are we going to survive this? I feel like one of my strengths and faults is I have shiny object syndrome. A lot of founders have that, but I also have a strong founder's intuition. And I think a lot of founders, most entrepreneurs have that. It's just whether or not they listen to it. And so when I see shiny object, that I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll kind of dig into it a little bit. And sometimes it can be distracting. And sometimes your team will be like, what are you even talking about right now? Seen Rabbit Hole a year ago. And I just put these things in my pocket. I'm like, that's cool. I'm going to learn something about that. And then it may not be immediately applicable, but when something like a global pandemic happens and you are an expert in new formats of meeting virtually that don't suck like Zoom, it makes you in pretty high demand. So that curiosity, I think, is super important for people in business.
Yeah, I agree that looking at not just what it looks like, but how can you kind of position yourself to be successful in that market is pretty valuable. How did your pitch change, right? Because your pitch went from, we help you connect physically, now we help you connect virtually, but you were going after companies and businesses that probably didn't understand too well what it was like to connect virtually. Of course, some of them still don't, but that's just because they refuse to learn. How did your pitch get adjusted for that?
Yeah. I mean, it was really, so originally I wanted to go straight to consumer, to do a B2C social network. And we won that pitch competition with Techstars down in Tampa Bay with JR. So we won that with that idea, but one of the judges said B2B only, like go B2B. And I was like, okay, we can go B2B first, but eventually that's still the goal. And so we were pitching to HR and saying, hey, retention of your employees, productivity, workplace loneliness and mental health. Those were the problems that we could solve for you. And so we really shifted because our new customer was no longer the HR person that wanted to bring their team together. At least, we dip back into that now, but at that time, mid 2020, it was, are you an event organizer that that basically organizes events in person and can't do your job right now? Right. We can help you do your job, especially because the platforms we used allowed for sponsorships. And so not just like a PowerPoint presentation on the screen, we had little banners and billboards in this virtual room. So, I mean, that was huge. So just telling our clients, if you're a nonprofit, we can help you get your your yearly revenues that you need for operations. You need sponsors to give you money. We'll give you that. We called it virtualization. We'll virtualize your event. And that stuck with people. They're like, okay. I remember one nonprofit, it was United Way.
Yep.
We said, we can virtualize your luncheon. What's something that really embodies the spirit of your luncheon that you do every year. And they said it's kind of crazy, but people love these flowers. We have these particular like white orchids that go along with the theme. And so we put those in their floor plan. And so, and people like raved about it. It's just a picture, but I mean, those kind of experiential elements are what make it. And so we went from selling connection to having connection as a core concept, but really selling peace of mind. It was, I told all of my employees early on as we were growing and scaling, we don't sell virtual event production services. We don't sell even tech, tech support. What we sell is peace of mind. It's you have something that you have to do. It's really hard. You don't know how to do it. You don't have time to learn it. We do that. We'll make sure that it goes smoothly for you. So really, it's just a matter of, for us at least, understanding who our audience is, and that can be a tough challenge to really hone in on. But and then once you do that, you have to say, okay, what keeps you up at night? What can I do to help? What can I most do to help that especially impacts your wallet?
Yeah, I mean, impacting the wallet is kind of everyone's goal these days, hopefully in a positive way, and being able to build the wealth while making an actual difference. I
Yeah.
wanted to go back to the shiny object syndrome because it is something that is alive and well in the maker community, and you've reached out to me a few times with some ideas. And it's been interesting because every single the first idea you brought to the table was I forget the actual idea, but I remember I'm like, no. I'm literally this is
Oh,
like, no.
I think the first one I approached you with was like a bendy man, like a swag item, I believe.
Yeah, and we can make a Gumby, but it would just make more sense for you to have it done in a traditional manufacturing way. And 3D printing solves a particular problem that I don't know if was something that you specifically needed. And I think that's kind of important to talk about that shiny object syndrome, because I think that's what got you those few times. And what I've enjoyed is watching the asks. As you've learned, as we've talked, your asks have gotten way more specific, and we're coming down to one where maybe we'll be able to do something cool with you, because you do have some really awesome ideas, and that's makes you a maker. That's why you're on here making awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. And I mean, the whole maker concept. I don't know if you know it, but Knoxville, where I am, is the maker city.
Okay.
It's that's kind of the moniker here. They have a mayor's maker council, but Etsy got a really big start here in Knoxville,
No
and so
kidding.
the maker community here is huge. And so I love considering myself a maker because I love to make. I'm more of a breaker, really. I like to break things. But make it or break, I think just toying with different ideas is cool. And so to your point, I met Grant. We had an amazing first experience together because I don't have that one, but I have like a 3D printed trophy here. And so we figured out how to like have a virtual award ceremony. So it was like, and the award for awesome maker person goes to Grant. And then we was like, he had one too. So we kind of passed it over and he pulled it in. Yeah, there you go. So it was like, I had one of those and it's like, here you go.
Yeah,
And then
I'm
he
like
pulled it out.
I now had to make my own trophy, which was I never did put a placard on it, but it's like I know I made it, so it's
You
fine.
made it, yeah, you got it.
Um,
But so that was a cool experience. And then so I then knew like for one thing, I don't have a 3D printer, but it's always fascinated me, right? It's cool technology. I would love to have one. I haven't had time or been in the right situation to where I could invest in one. But knowing that you did that, whenever I had a need for a product, I didn't know, what I knew that you can make things quick. And I know it's really not great for mass production as much, but it's great for prototyping. And I don't even know if I knew that back then, but basically you make an ask to someone like Grant, and you're going to be kind of an asshole if you keep approaching them in the same uneducated way. So I first asked him about a bendy man, and he educated me. He's like, "This isn't great for it. Here's a better option." Um, and he was even like, "Do you really need this?" And the answer was no. I just kind of wanted some bendy lunchpool man. So
well, and that's part of our job, right? Like I could sit here and say, "Yep, we can do it. I'm gonna put some spring steel as a body. We're gonna print the whole damn thing out of TPU, and it would work."
Yeah.
But part of what we do is not just take people's money to build shit. We talk with you and figure out, what is your use case? Do you want to make
Yeah.
1,000,000? Do you want to make 100? What's your price point you're trying to get them at? And sometimes those things don't line up. And sometimes people come to us and say, well, I have this product, this is what it does, and everyone wants to buy one.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I don't want it. Well, then you're not my target. I said, but you just told me your target was everybody. And so
If
can you talk
if your
about
target,
huh?
go ahead. You go ahead. Sorry.
Can you talk about the importance of knowing your target market when it comes to a pitch?
Definitely. I think that there's two things that I don't ever want to hear, and I know pitch judges, customers, and especially investors, if you're looking for investment, don't ever want to hear. And that's, we have no competition is one. The other one is, everybody is our customer. Because if you don't have any competition, you either have such a revolutionary idea that like it's gonna change the world in some way, or more likely it's something that nobody wants or needs. Because if they did, it would probably already exist. Now somebody has to be the originator, so I mean that may be faulty logic, but I compare it to walking down a busy New York sidewalk. I don't know if you've ever been in New York. You're walking down the sidewalk. If you look down and you see $100 bill, keep walking because it's not real. Because you're not, you're just not going to see it.
Right.
Uh, and so, you want to make sure that you've really researched who is my competition and how can I do it better than them, right? And so there's that. The other one is this: everybody wants this, like everybody. The other idea that I came to you with, I still firmly believe the world needs, and not everybody, but at least sports fans and people that like blinging out their car could put a Mohawk on their car. But I doubt, my grandmother who would want to put one on her Lincoln for any reason.
It's fair.
And so it's just really understanding, one, who could use this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who would this be something that would be valuable to them, and then honing in on that. But really, if you do it the right way, you'll start with a problem. Someone was like, if someone was like, man, this would never happen, but man, I really need some way to let everybody know how much of a University of Tennessee volunteer fan I am, and I can't figure out how to do it. Then I can say, okay, let me brainstorm some stuff, and then pitch them. Say, well, what about? Have you thought about a? I can't think of anything but Motohawk right now. But have you thought about a detachable Mohawk for your car? And you kind of gauge their reaction, and adjust accordingly. So
Right.
you're in product development. I'm sure a lot of your viewers are as well, right?
If they're not in product development, they're in like the business of making. And
Yeah.
it is common to see people in the maker community say, everybody needs this product, right? A lot of us feel that everybody needs a 3D printer. And I say, no, actually, no. Very few people need a 3D printer. What a lot of people need is a place to do 3D printing, because not a lot of people are willing to put in the time. A buddy of mine says he will never buy another 3D printer until Apple makes one, because he firmly believes that the way that Apple handles their business, he said, I don't care if it's a walled garden, I don't care what things cost, I need it to work. He has a 3D printer. It doesn't work all that well. It's a problem for him. But we deal with this issue of, they're not easy, right? They don't just work. So how do you solve that problem?
Yeah. How do I solve that?
Well, no. It's like, how do you solve the problem of
Just a
making 3D
rhetorical
printing
question.
work? And so,
Yeah.
And companies position themselves as such. They are a 3D printer for everyone, or a 3D printer for kids. We just reacted to a video about that a couple of weeks ago, where a 3D printer for kids almost caught fire.
Oh man, that's,
And like,
you don't want kids products to catch fire, or any product really, especially kids products.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that. So how can makers, or anybody in general, right? This is podcasts more surrounding makers, but anyone in general, how can they better understand their target audience? Like, if you believe your product is for everything, how can you check and verify either positive or negative to what you believe?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, and the reason I kind of went down that path is exactly that. You have everybody or most people in the maker community, and the business community know, I say business, startup business, know the importance of product development, right? You have concepts that have emerged like lean manufacturing, the lean startup method.
Yep.
It's like get a prototype, get an MVP, a minimum viable product out there, and then see what people think, and then kind of add features. So you're not sitting there trying to build everything and anything, and then you spend 12 months on it and nobody wanted it 12 months ago. And so there's a really good book that I read that I recommend for just about everybody called Four Steps to the Epiphany.
Okay.
And it's by Steve Blank. Have you read it?
No.
Come across it? It's not very popular for some reason, but one of my old coworkers that I used to go to lunch with a lot told me about it. He said, "You're starting a startup, you need to read this book." And now, admittedly, I haven't read the whole book because time, and it's thick. It looks like a textbook, but the principles in there are, you can't just do product development. You have to do product development is your one flywheel, and customer development is your other one. So actually, legitimately going to different customer segments and saying, "Hey, do you have this problem? Cool. What are you doing to solve that problem right now?
Right.
How is that working for you?" Because really, the best customers are ones that identified that they have a problem, can't find a great solution, and that's a good customer. The best ones are the ones that have done that and then have tried to make their own solution,
Mhm.
and it's kind of janky. Like if you're building software and somebody has hired a third-party developer to make a Excel spreadsheet, and then they've got their guy Jeremy that knows Excel pretty good to hobble some stuff together. Like, that's an opportunity. You
Right.
can make it better and sell it to them, and they'll be very glad to pay for it. You could probably get them to pay for it before you even build it, and that's the best.
It is.
So I mean, yeah, to answer your question, it's just testing and trying. It's that curiosity. I say I didn't read the whole book, and I didn't, but I love books. And even if you just read the back cover and get the concept, I think I actually have the other one. I don't have it right here, but sorry, my bookshelf is up here. I'm just looking. Where's my books? There's a book called The Mom Test. Have you come across that one?
No, I am so damn busy. I've got a stack of books that I need to read,
Yeah.
and I have
Yeah.
not been able to touch them for the better part of 3 years now. It
So
is
that's an
so
event.
freaking
That's a
busy.
market for somebody. Somebody needs to invent a way to like put a book in your brain. I think
Audiobooks.
working on that.
Feel like Audible and Amazon have pretty well
They're
locked that
close.
one down.
They're close, but no, I just need to like put it in there, like a Matrix style. Like, oh, I know kung fu.
Look, can we just
Cool.
install a USB port on a human at this point,
Exactly.
right?
Right in the ear.
Can I get a memory upgrade? Can we overclock the processor? I'll sweat a little bit more, but it's fine, right?
Yeah.
I want to be a little bit more
I'm pretty
efficient.
sure. I'm pretty sure my processor is overclocked. I just need I need more memory. I need a lot more RAM.
I want to keep overclocking, right? Let's liquid nitrogen cool the blood. Let's figure it out, right? Because that is the thing with a small business is you have 24 hours in a day, and
Yeah.
there is effectively nothing that you can do to affect that. So
Yes.
when you are taking somebody else's time to talk to them, when
Yeah.
you are going to them and saying, "Hey, I want money," because we all
Yeah.
know somebody else's money is the best kind of money to have.
It is.
How can you ensure that you are not wasting their time? Because ultimately, when you're asking somebody for money, your time is irrelevant. It is the time of the person that is wanting to give you or potentially wanting to give you that money. That's the time you need to be looking at respecting. So how do you make
Yeah.
certain that during your pitch that you're not, like me, talking too damn much?
Oh, so know your audience is a big one, but I forgot to mention the book. So the book I was talking about was called The Mom Test. It's
Yeah.
by, I think, Ryan Fitz or Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
You can't miss it. It's called The Mom Test. And what he talks about, the example he uses in the beginning, spoiler alert, is he has an idea for like a recipe app. He said, I've seen my mom in the kitchen. She's got this old Rolodex of recipes and, you know, what an inefficient way to do things. I can make her an app on her iPad. She stands it up right there, and boom, she's got access to all the recipes, you know, known to man on the internet. And and so he asked his mom. He said, "Hey, mom, I've seen you in the kitchen doing this. Like, do you like that, or would you rather have an app that had all your recipes and all other people's recipes right there?" And your mom is not going to tell you no. No matter if she's like, I don't even know how to use an iPad. You know, like she's just gonna be like, oh yeah, that would be really helpful, sweetie. I think that would be great. Now, your mom's not doing you any favors by saying that if you go spend, 30,000, 100,000, however much money, or a lot of hours if you're a developer building that app, and she's never going to use it. But there's this principle of ego preservation, right? Nobody wants to like poo-poo on your idea. Nobody wants to shit in your cereal or whatever. I don't know. That's probably a bad analogy, but so you have to you have to go. He calls it mom testing. You have to go through it in the right way. So don't even mention what you're building. Just ask a lot of questions to understand what they're going through. And usually, um, people like to talk about their problems. You know, if you open up an avenue to say, "Man, Grant, uh, how is business? You know, like what's going on with you? How are things? I see you printing that thing back there. What's that? You know, like just
Can't tell you.
top secret. I can see it. I'm gonna zoom in. No, but it's really just so you could uncover that through your discovery. It's like
Right.
she doesn't need an iPad. She needs like a little stand for her Rolodex or whatever. You know, maybe, but you can uncover that kind of stuff, and then there's ways to position that. So books like that I think are great for getting a mindset of how to do customer discovery. But asking for money is way broader than that, right?
It's a
So
whole different animal, right? It is
yeah,
it is easy for me to go ask someone, "Hey, this is what I'm working on. Do you have any feedback?" It's a lot harder to say, "This is what I'm working on. Will you invest?"
yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to call out makers here because I'm a maker and I have this problem too, and I know a lot of them have this problem. We kind of really suck about asking others to support us, right? As an influencer, unfortunately.
Uh,
And there's nothing I can do about it. I have my internet on a battery backup, but the line itself is it is falling down us. This is the 6th time it's gone dead for YouTube. So
oh man. Well, if
it's
you're
what
if you're watching
happens.
this, Grant's in Florida, and Florida has bad weather all the time.
I'm under a severe thunderstorm warning right now. It is 2 o'clock in the
I don't know.
afternoon. That is a window.
Well, we have 1 gig fiber up in Knox, so I'm
Look,
just I'm just throwing that out
no, I'm mad at you. Yeah, no.
there. It's cheap. I think I pay $40 a month for it. But
Wow.
anyway, so I lost that last part about what it sounded like. What I heard was makers are good at making things, good at coming up with ideas, but not great at asking for help making those things, whether it be money or probably usually money, but financial
Correct.
assistance. I think that goes along with being a maker, right? Because even as an entrepreneur, I have to learn to delegate. And so I see finance, raising money, fundraising, that kind of thing, as delegation, right? It's and same thing with building, making something. It's like, well, I could make this. I have a 3D printer, and maybe you do, but you don't have a 3D printer or setup like Grant does, and you can get it done a lot quicker, even if you need to spend a little bit of money. And so maybe it's like, okay, well, but Grant's setup costs $2,000. It's like, okay, well, let me go to someone that likes to invest in things and say, here's the potential of this product, right? I'm going to let you know up front, which I do believe if you're going to ask money, you should say, you know this, hopefully, but you could lose all of your money if you invest in anything, but in this idea. But here's why I don't think that you will. Here's why I firmly believe. And then I think a big part of it is letting them, it's rapport building, right? It's like, let's make sure that we like each other. If anybody's going to give you money, they probably shouldn't like think you're kind of an a-hole or
Yeah, they kind of have to like you, or at least minimally like your personality and your
yeah,
idea.
yeah. So there's a lot of there's a lot of the social element of it.
Right.
Um, but more than that, if depending on who you're approaching, you have to understand their motivations, right? So
Right.
one, if it's a venture capital investor, right? Um, I don't know how much your audience knows about this stuff, but venture capital usually it's a corporate institution. They have a lot of people pool a lot of money together, and
Mm-hmm.
usually they want a pretty significant return, right? And so they invest in like software as a service,
Right.
things that are just highly scalable, and usually at the point where it's ready to scale, and their money is just going to be an infusion of capital that lets you market more broadly, those kind of things. They're not going to invest in a prototype. So like, don't even. I mean, I'm not. They might, but I doubt it. Like so, you need to know who you're approaching. If you approach a successful entrepreneur that was a maker as well, a lot of those are angel investors, and that probably would be your best bet for something early stage. But again, you need to read research, like understand how does that work, because I didn't know anything about this whole world of asking for money when I first started Lunchpool, and that was only 3 or so years ago. But I read everything I could get my hands on, and that's blog posts, that's books, that's not just reading but talking to people that know it. Mentorship is huge, and
Are there
and
any
basically
places that you recommend to find mentors?
oh, there's a ton of them. So most people don't know about ESOs, so entrepreneur support organizations,
Mm-hmm.
but they exist just about everywhere. So in Tampa, Florida, where we first started, and St. Pete, there's like 7 of them. There's Tampa Innovation Center, or Tampa Bay Innovation Center, which is in St. Pete.
Yep.
There's the Wave Accelerator,
Yep.
which is pretty good. There's the Tampa Entrepreneur Center, I believe it is.
Oh, the Entrepreneur
Um,
Collaborative Center down in Ybor,
oh,
right?
yeah, in
Yeah, yeah,
Ybor.
yeah.
And so these are people who not only want to help you, but will help you for free,
They're literally
and
paid to help you.
they're paid to help you. They get government grants to make sure that you are successful.
Yep.
And it killed me that, I didn't know about them, but like more people need to know about these. I've been working really closely. We just had a yard sale today, so that's why I'm kind of a mess. And I've got my dad's stash going. I need to clean up a little bit. Sorry, guys. But I had a bunch of Knoxville Entrepreneur Center T-shirts in there. They also give you free swag. And someone was like, "Do you work at KEC?" Because they knew somebody that worked up there in the past. And I said, "No, but I feel like I do, because I'm with them so much. I'm promoting them, because honestly, a lot of our success at Lunchpool is, one, because we're putting on a fantastic service,
Right.
obviously. Like
Obviously.
I believe, but I believe that you have to serve the customer, and you have to put on your best. Your best. You put on your best, and it will return to you. But you need people. You need that social capital we talked about at the very beginning of connections. You need
Of
people to
course.
say, "Oh, Grant, you're building this thing. Hang on a second. I was talking to Bill, and he had this problem that I think that'd be perfect for." And that's what ESOs do a lot, and they have those mentor networks. So like, I quickly got connected with people that had built a large software operation and had a huge, multi-million dollar exit, and they know a lot more than you do. They knew a lot more than I did, and they were, mentors are a rare breed. They're very generous with their time and knowledge, because there's something intrinsic about giving back and helping someone. When like, I know full well that I've had help, so I just got to be a mentor at a KEC, Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, pitch competition, and it felt so good, because I was like, I've won one of these. I've literally won one of
I've
these, and we
been
didn't
where
end up
you've
winning.
been.
Yeah, I've been here, and it's cool to watch too. And I'm not going to tell them everything, because who has enough time? But also, like, they need to have some of the struggles that I had, but I can guide them with some of this type of advice. They're like, hey, I really want to do all this marketing and advertising, blah blah blah, and I'm like, get the product down first. Like go develop that market. Go make sure you have people that want to buy it, because we didn't do I'm a marketer by my background. My whole corporate experience was digital analytics and marketing. Our Google Analytics is half set up, maybe a quarter set up, if that. We haven't done a lick of marketing in the last 2.5 years because we just focused on the service.
Yeah.
And so mentors are all around you. And again, just like asking for money, it's as easy as saying, "Hey, Grant, I've seen that you have," because Grant, you're my mentor, if whether you like it or not or know it, because he's my Sherpa into this interesting 3D printing making world.
Right.
He knows a lot about it. I don't. I'm interested in it. Boom. I'm like, "Hey, Grant, do you have a moment for me to ask you some questions?" And you're very generous with your time too. So you are a mentor. And I think you probably know that. But you have to be, to where we kind of first started the conversation, you have to be respectful, right? I can't come to you with every single question I have, be like, especially if you can Google it. Google what you can, get expert advice on what you can't. And then, pick up on cues. If Grant's like, this is a terrible idea, I'd be like, okay, well, this is why I don't think it is. He's like, no, here's why it is. I'm like, okay, well, let me bend your ear for another hour trying to convince you.
To that point, right? If your mentor is someone that is an expert in your industry, right? So if someone comes to me and says, I have this idea for a 3D printer, but I'm not going to put thermal runaway protection on it. I'm going to tell you to get the hell out of my office. I'm going to cancel the Zoom meeting, and I'm going to tell you you're a terrible person. You're going to cause damage to house and home of people all over the country if it sells. If you tell me that you want to launch a 3D printer on Kickstarter, I'm going to tell you it's an uphill battle, because everybody's been burned by Kickstarter and there have been considerably more failures than there have been successes. And don't compare yourself to Creality and Anycubic. They're companies with footholds in this industry already. I'm going to play the devil's advocate, because as a mentor, as someone who wants to help you, that's kind of the job. You need someone to challenge you. And when a mentor challenges you, they're not trying to be a dick. It might come off that way. What they're trying to do is put you into a different state of mind, to be looking at your problem, not for the problem itself, but for how you can solve it. Right? Mm-hmm. If you come to me and say, this is the problem that I have, and you're literally the only person that I've ever heard of that's had this problem, you can have an uphill battle, because you might be solving your own problem. And look, if you only want to produce one of the product, great. I'm all for it. But product development is a bunch of mentorship. It's actually why we started the YouTube channel, was to be able to kind of mentor people for free. Although if they'd like, they can always subscribe, leave a like, and support us over at Patreon, patreon.com/3D Musketeers. Yes, I did just segue into
is that in the
call
comment?
to action.
Is that in the comments, that link?
It's in the description, as it always is.
Boom.
It's never in the. I never really put it in the comments. That just feels.
What's weird. That called? Patreon.
No, Patreon. Oh, okay. You do know what Patreon is. Okay, I was.
Yeah, I was trying to shield a little bit too, but I think that's the thing that again, you're pitching. Like, makers need to be able to say, hey, I'm pumping a lot of value out into the world here. It's not for free, money or time. You have great equipment to do it. And you do that as a service, but you also, it's a matter of exchange, right? So
it is always exchange.
I'm hoping that one day, for your time that you've spent kind of bringing me up to speed on this world, that I can pay you back somehow, because reciprocity is everything. And so that's the other thing is, like,
well, you're here hanging out with me now.
Well, yeah, and see, there's I got to at least bore your audience a little bit with my rhetoric, but
they're probably more bored of the internet going out constantly, so it's fine.
But that's the thing is, like, if you're a maker, make sure you're not a taker. Like, don't just take someone's advice, time, things like that. Like, pay it forward, but also try to help them out. One of my favorite mentors here locally, he he had a big exit. He connected us with a ton of our early businesses, and then he started his own company again. He's like, I got the itch. I want to start another SaaS startup. And so I've done my best to connect him with people as well. Like he doesn't necessarily need it, but every new business needs those connections. And
Right.
so, he's picked my brain about things too. So like it's a two-way street, be a mentor, be a mentee, but just don't just take, because that'll eventually burn bridges. And so
Yeah, it's not
yeah,
about me, 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 me. It's about us, right?
yeah,
It is, if I'm going to take something, how can I provide something in return? Like literally before we went live, I said, all right, I'm going to do some call to actions for Lunchpool, but do you want me to front load them or do you want me to kind of sprinkle them throughout? Because again, you're volunteering time on a Saturday. You're solo with the kid today, and you were just doing garage sale stuff. So you've got a lot of shit going on. And
oh,
so,
and we got a birthday party with the neighbors that we got to go to in an hour. So I'm
okay,
gonna
well,
I'm gonna
we
I'm
can
gonna
keep
squeeze it
talking. I can give you an out for that if you want.
Hey, maybe it might take a.
We literally met because, well, startup week was a little bit of a different way to meet, but the other way that I met you was through the accelerator that I'm a part of, which is Domi Station.
Yeah,
An accelerator based in Tallahassee, of which I've never visited. I might be going there for the pitch event. I don't know.
you
It's a
should. You should go in person. Yeah,
it's like a
there's nothing
5 hour
like it.
round trip for me.
Oh man, ouch. Okay, it's
And I got a
worth it.
bad back, which is the problem, and I
Uh,
some potential car problems, but that's another problem for another day. But um, I that accelerator, and while there is a fee to it, right? It's like $150 a month or something. There's a value to me because I'm able to get connected with mentors that not only am I able to get assistance with my business, almost every mentor that I've interacted with somehow has come back to me and said, "Can you do something like this?" I'm the oddball. I'm the oddball in those groups, and I know I'm the oddball because I'm the guy that can kind of make anything. There's someone there that makes denim and leather goods, and he's
hmm.
using, like reasonably well, sort of, I forget the right term, but harm-free ways of getting the
Oh yeah,
leather and all that. It's not like a
cage-free,
farm.
free roam leather or
Right. Yeah. It's not like cruelty free, something
fair
like that.
trade kind of thing.
Yeah, fair trade. I think the word he uses is fair trade. And he's like, "Could you make this part for my machine?" I said, "Yeah, you got a broken one?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "All right, mail it to me. I'll make it." And that was something that he just thought, I'm going to have to weld this together, find a way to make it work. We're able to assist in that. And I would have never met this guy ever. There's not a snowball's chance in hell we would have met otherwise. But
Yeah,
accelerators like that can connect you with literally other businesses that are able to assist.
yeah.
But the pitch is something, so they always have us do like that 30-second
The
pitch.
pitch
And
night kind of. Yeah.
mine is never the same. Because I like just, one, I like screwing with people. Two, I like trying out other things. And while I'm talking, a lot of times you're supposed to be looking at the camera, but I'm watching the Zoom room to see who all of a sudden just started to pay attention to me. Who's looking, because then that means that pitch is hitting that target market.
It's tougher to pitch online too because in
Oh,
person
it
at
is.
least you can see people, you can kind of get better gauge their reactions. Sometimes in Zoom people are like a black screen, their camera off, and you're just like, is
Exactly. It
anybody
is. It is.
listening?
It's tough. I won't say it's not tough, but I do kind of prefer Zoom because I can't have this background in real life. Like I can't bring an army full of printers to a pitch event for a 30-second pitch. I can't
And
do
then
it.
I'll tell you, you're the go-to guy for making stuff because you're on Zoom and it's like, man, he's like literally making stuff right now. I can see that thing moving behind him.
I am
I'm so
so excited to
impressed.
talk about that project, but it's going to be at least another month till we will.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah,
It
you can
is
tell me all the lie. It's
custom
okay.
circuits, lots of 3D printing, and a robot. And
Well,
Christy Deutsch, I think she's a physics teacher, but she said in the comments, try teaching on Zoom. And yep, just as
my wife's a
bad.
professor. Yeah, hates it.
So,
Try teaching hybrid. My wife will
oh
go
no.
into it like hour long rant about how bad that is.
I'm going to call out one of our staff members. I know he's not going to get this far into the episode anyways. Hi, Justin. Justin recorded himself for like 10 or 15 minutes doing regular movements on a Zoom camera. And when he didn't want to pay attention in class, he would make sure that he wore the same clothes, and then he would switch to the video. Quite literally, like, you know how they would loop a security camera feed?
Yeah.
And he said 15 minutes was not long enough to trigger
Like the
any
Homer
of the
Simpson.
problems.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Like,
Homer Simpson where he like posts up a little post-it picture of him. Yeah.
and it's like,
I like
you're squandering an education because you're being lazy. And I know he wasn't the only one doing it. He just admitted to it, so I'll call him out. And I think she knows that by now, but I know Christy's over at a new school. They're over in California, where things were quite a bit stricter than they were over here in the Wild East, I will say, because they're over.
Yeah. But isn't technology great though? Because I can, now I can be in a library. You got to get your lighting right, but even got video ones, so I can be like, oh yes, of course, I'm in the office. I'm in the co-working space here.
That one is almost believable too, right? With the good bokeh.
Yeah.
It remote learning kind of did change the art of the pitch. And how, from your perspective, obviously you've done quite a few of them. How did it change your pitch, and how do you think it made your pitch stronger and at the same time potentially weaker?
Presenting online, I think that for one thing, it can be a crutch, but you can, literally paste something up above your. I recommend above your monitor, because then you're looking at the monitor. Even if you're reading, you're saying, okay, and you know what we do? We bring people together over food, drink, and shared social experiences in formats that they may not be able to do without the technology that we are able to. Like I'm not reading it now, but I could have been. You'll never know. And so, I think that's a big shift. But I think that one thing I learned is that pitching online lets you pitch more, and there's nothing like quantity. I mean, yeah, there's nothing like quantity to improve the quality of your pitch, because I feel like as humans, our brains do not like to feel bad. We're wired for seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, right? It feels good when someone says, that's a great idea. Are you okay? Did something blow up?
Yeah. Oh, a door was just pushed shut. I guess I didn't push a door shut. The storm is getting really bad outside. If for some reason all of a sudden
if something catches fire back there, this might be the best episode.
I'm watching. Yeah, we're not streaming right now. I'm waiting for the internet to come back up. But yeah, the weather is quite literally hurting my internet. But sometimes so everything's on battery backup except for the regular lights that are in this room. So if all of a sudden my hair goes dark, we've lost power.
Okay. We'll keep that in mind. I love it. We're living on the edge.
We are living on the edge. Yeah, the battery backups in here should last well over 24 hours. Hilariously, the one on the internet will only last about 6.
Yeah. It's tech, it's bound to break. We make stuff with it, but it's bound to break on us too. But basically, you have every time you pitch, whether you know it or not, you're getting feedback that is going to help you be better next time. The analogy I like to use is if you played sports at all, or even if you're not a sports person, if you're an an artist.
Wasn't really built for sports when I was younger,
I
was built like a football. I just wasn't very good at it.
I played tennis, and I think I quit the team every year because me and the coach would get into it. But then he let me join the team again next year for some reason. But in tennis or in art or in anything really, you got there's was it Adventure Time meme with the yellow dog? It's like Jake, I think it's like the first step to being sort of good at something is sucking at something. It's
right.
True. You got to just get out there. And same with pitching, like pitch to anybody and everybody. Because it was probably annoying. I probably still am annoying, but like I would tell people about Lunchpool early, and they would. I swear, their faces were like, okay.
It's
okay.
what now?
Yeah, and I didn't know.
I was lunch. Huh?
Yeah. so lunches and
Are
how do you make
you
money off of that
Uber?
again? Yeah. But sometimes their questions trying to understand it will even tell you something good. Because early on, somebody was like, so it's kind of like a platonic networking Tinder. And I was like, yeah, it kind of is, like what we were doing originally. Not really. We are fulfilling the human hunger for connection. And like just that line, I've seen people like kind of perk up, and I'm like, man, okay, that's a good one. Let me write that in my little cheat sheet here. And I can because I'm at my desk.
Yep.
And but just being able to have you can have back to back meetings. You can have meetings with multiple people. It's just more accessible online, so it allows you to pitch more. And I promise you that as busy as everybody is these days, most of the time, if you have somebody that you know reasonably well, or a lot of times even if you don't, if you say, "Hey, um, I like to lead with compliments because if they're heartfelt, people
Kill him
love
with
to hear."
kindness
Yeah. So
or
just say,
baffle him with
"Hey,"
bullshit. One of the two.
exactly. But I just reached out to an investor recently, not because I want his money, but because I'm about to approach. We're about to do a big build, and I'm going to
Okay.
need a lot of money. And so and being an innovator, I'm going about it in the weirdest way possible. So it involves blockchain and it's
All
a
the fun
rolling.
buzzwords.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, buzzy, but it's like it's called a rolling safe, which is like Safe Note is already a kind of cutting edge type of fundraise. We're doing something even like more cutting edge than that. And so, Knoxville, Tennessee is not that uh, risk. It's a risk averse place for investors because it can be. It's very institutionalized, where you have the big industry here is a university, a government lab,
Mm-hmm.
and the Tennessee Valley Authority, a government thing. So the the risk tolerance here is not great. So I'm approaching some investors to say, hey, blockchain based investing that's tokenized and blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I'm saying? And two, like, is that something that you or some of your peers would invest in? So like, I'm sincerely not asking him for money, but I'm asking him, would you invest in something like that, regardless of the idea? If you like the idea, would the instrument for giving the money and the term sheet be something that you want to do?
So
And
this is kind
so
of like the first date, but you've already said, look, I'm going to buy dinner. I just would really like 5 minutes of your time, right? Or I'll buy
exactly,
the drinks. I really just need a couple minutes of your time. This isn't a sale. I'm just trying to see if this is something that you or someone that you know would be interested. That's a really interesting way because to breach that, did you already know this investor before having that conversation?
no, I mean, I met him at that pitch competition I was in. They brought him in to go around talking to the mentees, the participants in the pitch. I was a mentor.
Yeah.
He came to my table, and I just briefly mentioned it to him. I was like, he got it. Like one of my mentors was like, "Oh, you need to keep an eye out for this guy. He's a big shot investor here."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was, I kind of caught his ear. He gave everybody his number because a lot of, again, mentors love to put themselves out there. I mean, he's an investor too, so all these potential good ideas to invest in.
Right.
But he, I just kind of caught his ear. I was like, hey, are you guys doing any stuff in the blockchain, crypto, that kind of world? And he's like, we've looked into it. It's interesting, but a lot of it doesn't really fit into our portfolio. But always interested to hear. So I was like, boom, there's an invite. And then it's been a few weeks, and so I was thinking about. I decided that I do want to pursue this method, but I got to validate it, because I don't want to spend all my time approaching this market if nobody's going to do it. I don't want to spend all my time approaching any market if nobody's going to do it. And so, I just reached
Right.
out and I said, hey, Eric. His name's Eric. I said, hey, Eric. We chatted briefly at X. So remind them who you are. If you haven't met them, that's a whole different opener. But just if I hadn't met you, if I hadn't met him, I would say, hey, Eric, I was talking to so and so, and they mentioned I should reach out to you. If they have, talk to so and so first and say, hey, do you know so and so? Boom, you've talked to them. hey, they mentioned I should reach out. Or, hey, Eric, I was reading an article online, and it was really interesting. It's kind of pertains to my situation, and I was wondering if you had a moment to let me run something by you. Give them an expectation of how much time it's going to take, and be realistic. I can't say like, can I ask you something? And it's only going to take 2 to 5 minutes of your time. It's like you can't even introduce yourself in that amount of time.
No, you
But
can't.
you know, yeah, but I mean, 20, 30 minutes, people are usually willing to part with some of that, especially if you give them an idea of what they can get out of it. So, like for him, I know that he's interested in blockchain based things. I know that he hasn't seen anything that he thought would be a good fit for the things that they invest in.
Right.
And so for me, that's perfect. Like he's already almost invalidated himself, but he knows a lot of other investors and a lot of things they're doing. And so, it's the perfect person to see. And
It sounds
now
like it.
again with yeah, and again with the mom test, I'm not going to go to him and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Would you do that?" Because again, or would other investors do that? He'd probably be like, "Yeah, I think you could probably get some other people to do that." But I'm just gonna try to understand what has his experience been like with something like that. What pain points does he have with how they are investing? And then you can
You're
say,
like
"What about?"
incepting the idea of investing into your company. Hey, Duff in the comments is talking about. He said, "Love the tactic. Give them the opportunity to invest without asking them. You let them warm up to the idea before, and it's like they nonchalantly know you're kind of asking for money, but they're waiting to feel it out. And if it piques their interest, maybe they'll kick a couple of grand at it, right? But
Yeah,
would you expect somebody like that to be a big time investor, right? Would you expect them to write a six-figure check for something like that? Or is your expectation more along the lines of, I don't want you to invest 100 grand. What I want you to do is kind of look at it and see if you see something wrong, like an acid test, if you will.
yeah. I think. So wait, say the question again. Sorry, I zoned out for a second. I was thinking about
The
something.
goal of a meeting like that, is it
Oh
to
yeah.
kind of acid test the idea, or is it to nonchalantly ask for investment?
No, yeah. So I mean, you have to be heartfelt about whatever you're trying to do. Like, if I get another LinkedIn message that starts with, "Hey, thanks for connecting, Alexander. This isn't a sales call, or like I'm not trying to sell you anything, but everything after the but is usually a pitch." And I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like if like I don't even read them anymore. If it's more than like 2 sentences long, I'm just like delete because they can email me or something. I don't know. It's just, but so if you're gonna say this is not a sales pitch, don't put a but. Like just like I run this by him because I'm curious if people here would invest in something in that way. I guess I'm not even interested in if they believe in the thing that I'm pitching. I want to know if you believed in a product or a service that someone was pitching,
Mm-hmm.
and you were like, "This is a great idea. I want to invest in this." If they came to you with this particular method of investing, and just briefly, what it is it's kind of like the ICOs of yesteryear,
Okay.
but a safe note is I don't want to value my company yet because I want to give you the opportunity to set a valuation cap. So let's say the most that or what my company is worth today is $2 million, and there's an art to like figuring out that valuation cap and
Absolutely.
negotiation. But so you base the investment on that. It's a debt instrument, so it's kind of like a loan, but then it's convertible. So if let's say I then raise money in a future round, then we would have to actually value the company. And let's say we agreed on 2 million now, in a year it's actually valued at 10 million. You still have those preferred shares at 2 million, and so it can be really lucrative for them. Ours is different because instead of a note, I'm going to pay you with lunch, which is our token that we've made on the blockchain.
I've
And so
said
like,
many times, if you are a good cook and you want to do product development, I am generally willing to accept good food. It must be good food in
yeah, yeah,
exchange for some services from the company, because I love trying new things. And if I can have a good home cooked meal by
yeah,
someone who's very like there's a client that we've been working with who is a award winning baker, Like
Yeah.
their cakes and things are amazing. I said, I will trade you cake for an hour or two of my time because
Yeah.
I want to get to know your product, because at the same time I'm getting to know you. And there's a lot of value to that to me as a
Oh
product
yeah.
developer.
Yeah. Well, and I was mentioning like that's lunch coin, but regardless, all that aside, I want to ask him, would someone do this? And may there's obviously there's to your readers or the listeners' point, he could be like, yeah, now tell me about what you're trying to build, and
Right.
you better and will be prepared. Like I'm not going to be like, oh well, I don't really have a pitch for that yet, but let me get back to you in a week. Like, no, that ship is probably sailed by then. So be ready. But I'm not going to go in with an ulterior motive, because people, especially people that are pretty savvy,
Mm-hmm.
will pick up on that. And so it's kind of like the first pilot that we got. We got invited to the hackathon that we did was sponsored by a company called Know4, a big cybersecurity company in Clearwater. And so one of the prizes was the opportunity to meet with their C-suite. So they were a unicorn back then. They had just reached like 50 million in annual sales or something crazy.
Wow.
And me and my scrappy startup team that we put together at this startup weekend got invited to go see them. And so what did I do? I made a pitch. I put their pictures in the pitch. Like I made a very specific pitch for them with no plans to pitch. I just had it there. And then and my team was like, Alex, do not pitch. And I'm like, I mean, did they ask? If
I got
the
nothing to lose. Tommy
why
Boy
not?
Chicken Wings. Let's go.
And so we're talking. They're giving us advice on running a business, that kind of stuff. And then the CEO just kind of twirls in his chair, crosses his legs, and is like, so what are you guys building? And I was like, well, I'm glad you asked. Boom, pitch time. And next thing you know, he's like, well, what do you need? Do you need investors? Do you need a company to test it out with? And I said, well, because back then I didn't really want to take anybody's money because I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Right.
And I told him that. I said, I would feel irresponsible taking someone's money at this stage, but I do firmly believe that we're onto something. And so I do want a company to test it with. And next thing you know, they're our first pilot customer. They're letting us interview their employees. They're letting us, launch the app in its prototype form for their companies or for their employees to use and give us feedback on whether it's useful or not. And that's huge.
Quite frankly, that might be more valuable than a cash investment, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people seem to miss. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call back to some of our previous guests. We actually had Lisa Lloyd on, who made a deal with Damon John, and Damon brought in Barbara Corcoran in season 1 of Shark Tank.
Nice.
And she herself said, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I didn't know that you could negotiate the ask. They made an offer, and I just said, what the hell, I'll do it.
Oh, yeah, don't take a term sheet at face value. That's like that's like going to a yard sale and just taking. You got to haggle a little bit.
She said even though that product ultimately did not succeed, the value of having mentorship opportunities from Damon specifically has been inconsequentially valuable to her.
Yeah, yeah.
And is that the right word? I don't know. Very useful.
I think invaluable means either way. It can be like no value, or it can be like it's so valuable you can't even.
We're talking crazy value to her, right? And of course, he is Mr. Money, right? He's got a lot of money. But what a lot of these investors have that, I don't know, I feel like gets underutilized is their actual experience in the industry, right?
Yeah.
So from my perspective, because I've heard plenty of pitches before, we have people come to us, inventors specifically. I don't really have any money, but I'd love for you to take over the, development of the product in exchange for a percentage of it. And I said, all right, pitch to me. And if you are not immediately ready to pitch to me, my answer to you is no.
Yeah.
Because if
you're not
coming
ready at
to
all.
me with an ask and you're not ready to, fight it out, then we're not fighting. I'm calling up the next contestant.
They're wasting your time. I mean, they're. No, I agree with that. I think if you're gonna offer someone equity, make sure it's something valuable. Like, hey, right. Grant, I got this pen. This is like a typical sales job interview things, like sell me this pen. It's like, well, let me sell you this pen because you're gonna want to own half of this pen. It's like you're like, I got a shit ton of pen. What does your pen do? You know, and you better be ready to tell somebody, or you are literally wasting their time.
Yeah, it's it has been complicated. So from your perspective, when someone is going to pitch, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see during a pitching competition or a pitch in general, I guess?
Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of competitions, and I think one thing is you are excited about your product and or service, and you probably know a lot about it. You don't have to tell every bit of detail about what you know about your thing, or what it is, because you're really one. There's a few things you have to convey. One, I have this idea. I see the world in a certain way. With my idea, the world will be better in some way. Two, people will pay for that. I have people that I know right now are ready to pay for that and don't know that my solution exists.
Mm-hmm.
I need to build it / get them to know that it exists, so they'll give us money. Three, I'm the right person to do this because X, right? And a lot of people miss that. So I would say one, it's not having having no problem
Right.
or creating one, or not having a firm understanding of it. Two, it's not delivering the promise of a better tomorrow. It's like okay, I understand that you have a problem. Cool. You haven't told me how you're going to solve that. Like building the product. Yeah, building the product. Great. How are you going to let people know about it? What's your marketing plan? So like, we didn't win the pitch competition that I did, right?
Really?
One that I mentored, the one that I mentored for. If I'm competing, we're going to win, of course. But as a mentor, I went into it and I was like, man, this is interesting, but it's a moonshot idea. So like this is a brother sister team. They were literally trying to get rid of, like, disrupt the entire real estate industry by making selling side real estate agents and brokers unnecessary. And I was like, I didn't mean like good luck, like, man, there's no way you can do this. Like, there's a way you can do this. Convince me, like, how are you going to do this? And by the end of it, they had a very compelling pitch. The other thing, that the mistake that I make, and I'm sorry if they ever watch this, I doubt they will, but you got to be confident, right? And that's what comes from pitching repeatedly. So pitch to your, do the mom test first, but once you're ready to pitch to your mom, pitch to your uncle, pitch to somebody that you're waiting in line with, say, oh, make a conversation, and they're like, oh, what do you do? Well, let me tell you what I do, and then gauge their reaction. Because when you're on a stage in front of a shark, or or any judge, even if I'm judging the competition, if you're in front of someone that sees pitches day in and day out, they don't want to see you like. And so then the thing that I'm going to try to, and this is coming from someone that, my background is that if I was in front of more than 4 people, I would choke up. I would get nervous as hell. But I decided, hey, I want to run my own business one day. And back then, when I first started this kind of train of thought, and if I don't, I want to be a high-powered business executive in a corporate role. And so I need to learn how to talk in front of people. And so, pitching in general, just being able to comfortably talk to people and convey ideas, I think that's a skill that will help you in anything in life. Like, whether you're there's a guy named Phil Gerbyshak that I met in Tampa.
Okay.
And I was getting ready. He's like a LinkedIn sales guru kind of thing. Like he knows his stuff.
I need somebody
and sales
like
in
that.
general. Yeah.
I can't afford them, but I need somebody like that.
Yeah, I don't know how much he costs, but you can be someone like that. And basically what he told me, he's like, So he's like, you really need to hone your sales skills. And I was like, no, I just got hired for a business intelligence. I'm a senior business intelligence analyst. And he's like, yeah, you're selling your ideas. You have to show those people that are going to read your dashboard how it's going to help them. And like, that really stuck with me because like we're always pitching something.
Right.
So like, I pitch my wife all the time. I'm like, babe, where did I buy recently? I'm trying to think. Oh, babe, this Meta Oculus, whatever you want to call it, Quest 2 is good for my business. I'm in the virtual event space, and we're not doing VR events yet, but we're probably going to need to. So I might as well go ahead and get one. And so I had to overcome objections in that pitch, right? She's like, well, okay, you're in the metaverse. You're not watching your kid. You're not hanging out with me. You're not
Well,
doing
that's why
laundry.
you need the AR. You need like the HoloLens where you can see through it.
Yeah,
I tried a
yeah,
Gen 1 out the other day. They were like $500 on eBay, I'm told. It
really.
was really cool. I have no practical use for it, but it was really cool.
Yeah, it's coming. I mean, again, it's like there's a problem somewhere there. They need to figure it out, what it is, what it solves. But my promise of, hey, this could help my business, which is part of our livelihood, be really successful. And it's a minimal amount of time, most of the time after, you're even asleep and the kid's definitely asleep. And so, overcoming that objection before it happens is super important. But I think I've deviated from your question. It was the pitch mistakes I make or lack of confidence, because that comes out as lack of confidence. Even if it's just you're nervous in front of people, it comes out as lack of confidence in front of or about your idea. And then it's just not selling it, not getting people excited, and immediately you need to let them know what it is. So like the most important part of the pitch, I would argue, is the beginning slide even. It's like, hey, I'm Alex, founder of Lunchpool. We put on virtual events that feel like the real thing. And like that's very easy to understand. Now you don't know what that means. You don't know how we do it. You don't know why. You don't yet know why that's important. Maybe you have some ideas of those, but you need to understand fundamentally what we do. Even if it's a concept and we don't do it yet. Like, hi, I'm Grant. I make shit.
It's true.
Period.
I make cool shit. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, and that's going to get their attention, is going to let them know what you do. Because if you went right into it, or let's say if I went right into it, I'm like, hi, I'm Alex. I'm with Lunchpool. So we're going to be using a lot of different platforms. Like, but even by that point, I've lost it, because like they're like, you're using something to do what? Like, what do you do? And it can be frustrating as a judge or just an audience member at a pitch competition to say like, they're on slide 4, still not sure what they do. That's it. That's the big mistakes. And the ask, always have an ask at the end.
Yeah, what would a typical ask look like? I mean, again, people are used to Shark Tank and what the expectations are with the sharks, but and valuation, that's the one that I see is the big deal. At least when people come to us and they're like, they're asking a product development company for money. I don't think anyways. They're like, well, yeah, I want $100,000 for 5% of my business. You're valuing your business at like $2 million
with no revenue.
No revenue. Oh, but the idea is really good. How do you know? Do you have any sales? Do you have pro formas?
Or validation.
Do you have a marketing plan?
Sales, if you don't have sales, you better come with, hey, I've talked to 400 people and 200 of them said that they would buy it. Here's a direct quote from some of them. Like you gotta have some kind of proof.
And then I guess the strengths are the antithesis to the weakness, but pitches that have stood out to you in the past, what made them strong?
So, I mean, I just got back from that pitch competition, right? And
that one's going to be fresh.
Yeah. And I'll pick on my team a little bit, because the guy was really nervous, and granted, it's in front of 100 to 200 people, and he's not that experienced with pitching, and he's pitching his baby. Like
Yep.
he's putting his ugly baby out into the world. Not that it was ugly, but that's what we always say is you got to get your ugly baby out there. You can't wait for it to grow up and be a beautiful. In my case, my child was a beautiful young woman. She started that way, but still an ugly baby. If I kept her, inside, she had a little cul-de-sac at the beginning where all her hair fell out up here, and she looked like George Costanza. I still got to get her out into the world. But he was pitching, and he was so nervous he didn't realize that they had a direct spotlight, and he was not in it. So he's pitching in the dark, like literally. Yeah, it was. I was like,
No.
move over.
Oh
Please move over.
no.
You can't see me, but please move over. Yeah, but there were a couple of pitches in there, and I was like, they're gonna win. And then I saw another one, I was like, maybe they're gonna win. But like, there were some really good pitches in there, and one was the confidence, right? Like, people love hearing someone that just is vibrant and glowing about what they do and their idea, right? And so, there's nothing like, it's mesmerizing really to watch. So one of them was uh it was fascinating to me because in the beginning I understood immediately what they were doing, and I
Right.
was like, I don't think this is a I think this is a rehash of something that already exists. So what they were doing, I can't remember the name of the organization. So another one is have a memorable name, like Lunchpool. People are like, I like lunches, I like pools. There's a lunchbox on there, but
Three
people still call us.
Musketeers.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great one. And people still call us lunchbox all the time, so you got to be careful with that too. But uh, she said we are project management. We are the project management destination for travel. What's it called? Travel agents. And then she's like, and yes, those do still exist. And so like it was funny too because I was like, and immediately I was like, the travel agents, is that still a thing? And so
They're
later she would go,
restarting.
they're restarting, yeah. And I mean, it's hard to book good travel, so they have a good place. But it was like she showed, like, immediately I saw the interface, and I was like, this is Trello, this is Asana, like those already exist. Um, but I was like, I knew what it was. I was interested to hear more. And then she went into the market size. I'm still kind of on the edge of like, okay, there's a market, but like, why wouldn't they use Trello? And then she went into, and the reason that we feel like we have something worth investing in and that will seize this much of this billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, whatever she had come up with stats market is because of all the recipes that we have that are highly, highly targeted to this specific niche. So just like you can get, templates in, and then she addressed the competition in Trello, Asana, Airtable. They're very broad. Ours are
Right.
specifically for these travel agents. And when we show them to people, they're very excited about using them immediately. And they can't get that anywhere else. And I was like, damn, that's good because that's a niche community, yes, but you could do that same model for other things. Like, let's say it works with travel agents. Now it's like, let me make a Trello style workflow for people that do 3D printing, for makers. Like, that's going to be more valuable to you than going to Trello and
That'd be
building it
amazing.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. So that was a cool pitch because just the way that it was introduced, I understood it. I was not sure that I thought it was a great idea. She
Hmm.
told me why it was a great idea. She told me the market that I didn't realize was there. And then she told me about the validation she did with the people in that market. And then she made her ask. She said, and I'm looking for $10,000, which was the prize, so that we can. And she told what she was going to do with that money, which I think was, further the development of it. So that was a really good one. Another one that I saw is something people love, and I mean, I'm not saying target your business towards this, but babies. People love dogs. So if you have a business around those, then it's already has a leg up.
Right.
But this was actually the business that won, and she was offering a traveling doula service, so like new mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and also food plans. So like, I immediately remembered when we had our daughter how we loved our friends that would bring over food because we did not have time to cook. We didn't have time to go out and order food, and so like I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And she was so passionate about it that I was just like, man, like I know I'm a mentor of this other team, but I think they'd be okay if I like clap really loud for you because that was good. And so, most of the time for me personally, it's the passion. It's like you'll see templates that are like, you have to include these things in your deck.
Uh-huh.
I mean, not really. You don't. I mean, you could. To an extent, you need to say, this is what we are. This is who I am. This is why I'm doing this.
Right.
This is why I think the world needs it, and this is what the world has told me that they will do if I do this.
Okay.
And this is what I need from you. And so you would ask kind of like, what is that ask? Well, it depends. Like if it's a pitch competition, I would say I want you to think that I'm the best idea and choose me as the winner. Which to do that, they have to believe that it's the best idea. So you have to, convince them of that first. If it's an investor, you have to, like in my situation, I have to know what kind of investor I'm approaching. What's their portfolio? What like what kind of companies do they invest in? What's their risk tolerance? What like all those things. And then my ask is, this is how much money I need. This is the percentage that you can get. This is how much my company is worth.
Right.
And all negotiable, but you have to make that ask and say, will you invest in my company? Because other than, if you don't ever make those asks, you're just giving information. It's like I learned that the hard way because I used to work at Radio Shack way back in the day. I'm turning into an old man now, but first job in college was Radio Shack. And I learned a lot about sales there because Best Buy, was right down the road. And Best Buy didn't know half as much information as I did and my coworkers because we had to go through training on stuff that was kind of irrelevant. Like I went through training on outdoor antennas, electrical wiring, all kind of things. And then, we hired the kind of people like me that were fascinated by new tech and gadgets and things like that. So we knew everything about everything.
Right.
And at the beginning, people would come in and they would ask us stuff. And then they would say, well, okay, thank you for your time. And then they go buy it at Best Buy, because it was a little bit more expensive with us.
Yeah.
And so, I learned really quick that you had to give them the information and say, you ready to buy it? They'd be like, well, I'm just looking. And then sometimes I'll call them out and be like, okay, so you're going to go to Best Buy, right? And they're like, I mean, it's cheaper there. I'll be like, well, how much was the information I just gave you worth? Was that worth anything to you? And, that wasn't my always approach, but
it works though,
it works. Yeah. It's like, I work off commission. They don't work off commission at Best Buy.
Right.
But really it was just making the ask, like, do you want to buy this? Because they may have not even considered that yet, and so you have to make that ask to put people in that decision-making mindset. It's like, do I want to choose this person as the winner? Do I want to give this person money? As Grant, do I want to spend time making this thing for this person? Do I believe that this equity they're promising me will give me a return on my time or money investment?
Yeah, most of the time the answer is no. Because they're coming here saying, I have the next billion-dollar idea. There's no financials, there's no target market, there's no any drive other than they are apparently the next Jeff Bezos. And I tell them, look, I need all of these things before I'm even going to listen to anything more that you have to say. And I'm sorry, I know that's me being an asshole, but my time is valuable and I have things that I have to do.
Yeah.
If you come back with all of these things, we can talk. And you know what? If you go on to make the next billion-dollar idea and I look at you as the one that got away, I will personally hand you the Nobel Prize that you're likely entitled to. And
I'll tell everybody about it.
Yeah, I'll eat the humble pie and I'll talk about the time when I said no to the next Elon Musk or whatever.
Yeah.
but I'm batting 100 so far. So there's that. I
Yeah.
I look at a good pitch as something that, like you said, has got the passion, but they also have to have the statistics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that we struggle with in the maker community and the 3D printing community is there is one publication that publishes data, and that's it. So if you're in like the automotive industry, oh my god, there's more data than you can shake a stick at.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you're not utilizing it to say, we are going after cars that are this, this amount of years old, because this is typically what they have. Maybe it's, valve cover gaskets that they're working on. Cars 8 to 10 years old are going to need valve cover gaskets. And with the value of used cars the way they are right now, the fact that supply chains are destroying the new car market, if we don't keep our used and older cars running, we're not going to have cars, period. And so this business exists solely to provide assets to those companies. And when eventually the supply chain does fix itself, we've now produced a relationship with rubber and Viton manufacturers that we can utilize in different industries. Back that up with some actual numbers, and you've got yourself a solid pitch that I literally just pulled out of my ass in the past 15 seconds.
There
Thinking
you go.
about the fact that my car leaks oil, it's 20 years old, it's got some other problems, and I can't afford a new car. All the legitimate problems that I'm currently dealing with that I know I'm not alone with.
Yeah.
If you could actually build a business doing something like that, you might have a decent option. You're competing with Amazon, but you might have a decent option.
Are we all competing with Amazon? I'm surprised they're not doing virtual events yet, but
Amazon has their own 3D printer filament. Hilariously, it's made in China and it's more expensive than stuff that I can source that's made in the USA.
wow.
Like from a legitimate small business who the owner has come on this podcast. Actually, that's one of his spools right there. It is printed solid Yellowbird. It's definitely not Big Bird Yellow / Steelers Yellow, but yeah, it's called Yellowbird, and this is
Beautiful.
when it's printed. This is what the color looks like. It's a really pretty yellow. This was a Chevy S10 that had a very bad day.
The crash test, I feel bad for the crash test dummies in that.
Ooh, that was not a crash test dummy.
Huh?
That was not a crash test dummy.
No, I'm saying it was the car, so the people in there.
Oh yeah, there were real people in that car when that happened. We got to scan the crashed vehicle, but and of course there was.
I see. Oh, okay. I thought.
Yeah, that's
that
a
was,
real crash
okay,
car from a real
okay. Oh,
accident.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
wasn't.
No disrespect to it. Yeah. Hopefully.
No, you're fine. You didn't know. And of course Amazon. There were some funny articles that came out yesterday saying that Amazon is going to ban the sale of 3D printers on their platform by 2024 because they're bringing out their own line. And I looked at it and said, no, they're not. They're publicly
They're
traded.
still making money off of those.
It was April Fool's yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was good. It got a fair few people.
Good one. Yeah, that's a good
I looked
one.
at it and said, I mean, I'm not going to put that against them. I think they would maybe do something like that, but I don't think that's a good personal tactic. A Filament Story says, Radio Shack, so much of my childhood was spent in that store. Can confirm. I grew up in Orlando. We had Skycraft, which is
it's the same type thing.
Oh my god, it's so much better.
Oh.
You walk into the store, smelled like phenolic resin, and you knew you were home, right? They had pieces of the space shuttle hanging from the walls.
I'll agree with you there because the cool part of Radio Shack was slowly shrinking and going towards the back of the store, and it was sad to see. But yeah, I feel you.
I'm still bummed I never bought those beautiful drawers where all the resistors and stuff used to be. We had one close and they liquidated the whole store. I didn't have the room for it, so I didn't buy them, but I was looking at buying them.
I wish I had one of those. Yeah.
Think of the organization, Alex.
Yes, the organization would be wonderful. You could print out what it is and slide it in the little slot. Man, that'd be nice to have.
Right. And a pitch is not just about me talking to investors. It's about the investors talking back. What are some of the questions that people should be prepared to answer?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions depending on the investor. But I think that some of the common ones are, where do you see this in X number of years? Like where are you going to be in a year? Where are you going to be in 3 years? And what that really means from an investor standpoint is, what's your exit? When is it going to be? When is there going to be liquidity? Are you one of those founders like I was in the past, have been, where it's like, this is my baby, I'm going to do this forever? Because an investor, what they're hearing is, you're going to give me money and there's never going to be an option for you to cash out.
Mhm.
Because that's not what they want. They want to hear, I'm going to get bought by Google in 3 years, and they're going to pay me $400 million. And it's like, as an investor, it's like, okay, cool, I'll give you $100,000 for X percentage. With that in mind, if that's your target. So have a plan. Have a plan of, where will you be in a year? Where will you be in 3 years? Where will you be in 5 years? Um, and so that's a good one. Another one is, why you? If that's not in your deck, like, why are you the best person to do this? What are your qualifications? Like, if you come in, saying that, hey, I'm going to completely disrupt the real estate industry, it's like, okay, like, so what's your background? It's like, well, I've worked at Denny's about this, that I've read everything on the subject, and I'm basically a real estate agent without having ever had the title. Like, have an answer for everything.
Yeah, I mean, relevant degrees are not immediately necessary, but if you don't have the piece of paper that states you know what you're doing, you better be able to back it up. And I'll say, I've met people with relevant college degrees that have absolutely no knowledge about the industry they got that degree in. And I've met people that are either dropouts, didn't go to college, that are absolute and utter experts in their field. And I never, like, there are people on our team that I only recently found out are technically not qualified on paper to do their job. But I never once questioned it because they're so freaking good at what they do. I've never
Yeah.
needed to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. People put too much stake in credentials a lot of the time, when a lot of times the credentials you need to see are the work itself. So yeah, I kudos to you for giving people a chance, because I think more employers should just give people a chance. You can fire them.
We say we are not we don't hire based on your credentials. If you've got it, great. That's awesome. I would love to talk to you. But we hire based on personality, right? A job interview is effectively a sales pitch, but you're pitching yourself. And if you go into a job interview saying, ugh, I don't want this job, go in there saying, ugh, I'm going to prove to them that they can't afford me. Right?
Yeah,
The,
I love that.
I've always told, so like, if people come in and you say, I don't really know my target market, I said, all right, go to your local mall, go to your local Walmart, tell them you're doing a school project and you'd love to get their opinion on something.
I like
Don't
that.
lead into the fact that you're an inventor. No one's going to give you the time of day. But adults are going back to college in mass anyways, so it's a completely believable front. If you have kids, it's even better for the kids to do it, because you can say, hey, I'm helping out my daughter with this school project. She's trying to, they have to come up with an invention idea, and we were supposed to just kind of make it up as we go. But I figured, what the hell? I don't mind talking to people. Let's get out there and talk to people. Nobody is going to question it. Historically, nobody questions it.
Nobody, yeah, they'd be an asshole too. But and then what you want to hear from that is, um, man, that is actually a really good idea. I wish that was, I wish this was a real enterprise. And there you go. You got something.
Right,
Hopefully, maybe.
right.
Um, One thing that, related to pitches, because and hopefully I don't go off track with this, but I am, shiny object syndrome, so fascinated with these new capabilities of AI copywriters. Have you seen any of that stuff?
We definitely aren't utilizing them at 3D Musketeers.
So please do. Like, there's some that are free, or free trials, or so I think some are just free. Some premium.
GPT-3 algorithms, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, somebody pumped in the whole internet into database, ran machine learners on it, and it's good. Like I use it to start everything. It's not, I love writing, but I'm not a great starter. Like it's hard for me to put the first few words. Once I have those, I can edit like a crazy man.
Yeah, your bio
But
that you sent to me was totally AI written, right?
yeah, exactly. So check this. Can I share my screen on here? I don't know if that is.
Yeah, let me do that. Let me know. Right.
Um, this is one of those that nobody has done it yet, so probably not that great of an idea. But
They make
um,
Mohawks for motorcycle helmets. I might be able to pull from that.
yeah, true that. Motohawk is a detachable Mohawk for your car. It allows you to show off your fandom for your favorite sports team with their colors or logo without having to permanently affix something to the roof of your car. All right, and then you can choose a tone. So sometimes persuasive is kind of nice.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then boom, let the robots do the work, and like I said, make it your own, but this will give you a good starting point.
Right.
So we got Motohawk, the removable detachable Mohawk for your car. Let it ride. Motohawk brought to you by the crew. Let's see, they're making up stuff, so you got to edit it. A detachable Mohawk for your car. It allows you to show off your, and sometimes they'll put exactly what you said, but like it gives you good words, and that's what you need in a pitch is good words. And so pick the stuff that you think is good. Let everyone know which team you're rooting for with Motohawk, the detachable sports fan Mohawk for your car. Perfect accessory to show off your fandom while driving. So I mean, that's just a tool in your tool belt that if you're having trouble conceptualizing, that's a really good starting point. It uses that the machine learning algorithm, um, and sometimes words are tough for people. My daughter is yelling at me.
Well, I appreciate you hanging out. This has been awesome, and those tools are invaluable for people, right? Ultimately, it does come down to people being able to utilize the tools that are in front of them to create really the best pitch possible, whatever it might take to become pitch perfect. Oh, that's a bad joke, Grant. That's just wrong.
I like it.
Although I like it, maybe I'll use that in an upcoming pitch event.
Yeah,
But
I'm surprised if they don't have a pitch competition named Pitch Perfect, then somebody's missing out on an opportunity
that's
there.
probably copywritten. I probably can't touch it because of the movie. But yeah, man.
I will. Give me 1 second, okay? Sweet pea. She only wants me because of the TV turned off. So.
Well, then I go ahead and do that. That is an important fatherly duty. Any final words that you want to give to the viewers out there?
There she is. All right, Avie, you're on TV there. You wave, say hello.
The entire internet is watching you. Hello.
She's I guess final words are, on the topic of pitching, um, you're spending your time on your project for a reason. It's because you are interested in the field or the thing, because you are passionate about the problem that it can solve, hopefully. And so she's distracting me. But take that passion and put it to words and create it. It's you, I know. And creative, it is you. You're gonna wave to Mr. Grant?
Wave to the whole internet.
You say wave? No, that's her stuffy animal. All right. But anyway, so harness that passion, right? Don't be. He's got one too.
It's
Don't.
the stunt double for my cat. When my cat's not here, we use the stunt double.
What are their names? Who are those? I think Sparkle. Everybody sparkles.
This is Greenfield. The YouTube channel named it Greenfield.
Nice. That's okay. We'll talk about that later. But passion. You've got passion as a startup founder, as a maker, as an entrepreneur. Let that shine through, and let it shine through off. I almost said awesome. Often, because the more you pitch, the better you're gonna get. So pitch often, and you will pitch well.
I love it. Well, guys, if you're looking to get an awesome platform to have lunch at your day job a little bit more effectively, check out Lunchpool. We'll have links down in the description below. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. And if you are looking to pitch, you guys can reach out to us, YouTube at 3dmusketeers.com, and I'll be happy to review your pitch. I'm kind of a jerk. And if you can get through me, then maybe I'll hit you up to our VC panel, because we definitely have one of those. We just kind of collected VCs over the years that sit on panels for us. It's fun. But thank you all so much. Do you know my outro? It's fine if you don't. Nobody ever does. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome.
I love it. Keep making awesome. I watch your videos, but I don't ever make it to the end. But now I know.
I'm a little chatty. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.